The Abnormal Halloween Legacy Part. Years passed, but the memory of the Devlin mansion lingered like an echo in Elm's Hollow. The town grew around the haunted hill, its people keeping the story alive, passing it down as a warning. Each Halloween, children dared each other to approach the hill, but the weight of the legend kept most away. But one Halloween night, the children gathered in the square for their annual festival, felt an odd stillness in the air, as if the wind itself were holding its breath. No one noticed Amelia's son, Owen, quietly slipping away from the festivities, making his way toward the hill with a flashlight in hand. Owen had grown up on the stories, hearing how his mother had once walked up to the mansion as a young girl. She told him of the figures in the shadows, their ghostly eyes, and how they'd saved her from something lurking in the darkness. He always wondered if the mansion held some connection to him, if perhaps he was destined to uncover what his mother had experienced. Climbing the hill, Owen saw the Devlin mansion looming against the night sky, its windows dark, empty. The air was thick with an unnatural silence. As he approached, his flashlight flickered, then died, plunging him into darkness. He felt a chill settle over him, colder than the autumn air, as he stepped closer to the broken door. Inside, the shadows seemed to move, a living darkness that felt aware of his presence. He called out, "Is anyone here?" His voice echoed, swallowed by the vast emptiness. Then he heard it. A faint voice like a whisper from another world. "Owen." He froze, recognizing the voice. It was his mother, Amelia. Panic gripped him as he looked around, hoping to find her. But as he called out, he saw three figures emerge from the shadows, their faces weary, eyes hollow. They were the spirits of Lucy, Sam, and Marcus, the guardians bound to protect the mansion from anyone who dared to disturb its curse. "Why have you come here?" Lucy asked, her voice heavy with sorrow. Owen felt his courage waver as the reality of the legends set in. "I wanted to know. Why did this happen? What is this place?" Sam stepped forward, a glimmer of sadness in his eyes. "This place is cursed, Owen. It's a prison for those who sought thrills at the cost of their souls." Then Marcus spoke, his voice distant, as though recalling a painful memory. "The darkness here, it never truly dies. We've held it at bay, but something stirs each Halloween." Suddenly the air grew colder, and a new presence filled the room. The shadows thickened, and a low growl echoed from the corners. Asriel, the weakened demon, still bound but ever restless, sensed Owen's presence, a living soul so close, one it could still torment. Lucy turned to Owen, urgency in her ghostly face. "You must leave. You don't understand what's here." But before he could move, a shadowy tendril shot from the darkness, wrapping around his leg, pulling him down. He gasped, feeling an unnatural cold seeping into his skin, a darkness clawing into his mind, whispering terrible things. The spirits of Lucy, Sam, and Marcus surged forward, fighting to free him from Azrael's grasp, but they were weakening, their forms flickering with the effort. Owen saw them straining, their faces filled with pain, struggling to keep the demon contained. In a final act of desperation, Lucy looked him in the eyes. "There's a way, Owen, a way to stop this. You must find the mark, the blood seal, break it, and Azrael will be banished, but it will come at a cost." With a surge of determination, Owen fought against the darkness holding him and stumbled to his feet, following Lucy's direction to an old portrait on the wall. The painting depicted Elizabeth Devlin herself, her face twisted twisted in agony, a hidden mark of blood seared into the canvas. He raised his hand, trembling, and reached toward the seal. But just as his fingers touched the mark, Azrael's voice filled the mansion, a terrifying growl. "You cannot destroy me. I am bound to this place as long as it stands." Owen gritted his teeth and pressed his hand firmly against the seal, feeling a searing pain course through him. The mark glowed red, the entire room trembling as Azrael's scream pierced the air, filling Owen's mind with visions of all who had suffered in the mansion. The demon's hold loosened, its dark presence beginning to fade. The shadows receded, and the mansion walls cracked, as though the very foundation of the curse was crumbling. Owen saw Lucy, Sam, and Marcus smile faintly, their faces softening as they began to fade, finally freed from their torment. "Thank you," Lucy whispered, her voice like a fading memory. "We can rest now." As the mansion groaned and began to collapse around him, Owen stumbled out, watching from the hill as the Devlin mansion crumbled to ruins. Azrael's scream faded, vanishing into the night, leaving a deep, heavy silence in its place. The townsfolk, who had felt the tremor, looked toward the hill, watching as the mansion, an ancient monument to Elm's Hollow's darkest secrets, finally fell. Amelia, standing among them, sensed that her son had done what she could not. The mansion was gone, the curse lifted, and the spirits at last found peace. But though the mansion lay in ruins, the townsfolk would never forget the horrors that once plagued their town. The story of the Devlin mansion became legend, a reminder that some darknesses, once summoned, could never truly be forgotten. After the collapse of the Devlin mansion, the town of Elm's Hollow was never the same. For many there was relief, as the dark legacy that had overshadowed the town seemed finally to be at an end. But as Halloween approached each year, whispers began to stir, and strange phenomena emerged, as if the curse had left a lasting imprint on the town itself. Owen, who had bravely broken the blood seal and destroyed the mansion, returned to daily life with a quiet unease. Though he had freed the spirits of Lucy, Sam, and Marcus, he felt their presence linger, like shadows that followed him wherever he went. At night, he would hear faint voices calling his name, distant but familiar, as if they were trying to warn him. The townspeople, too, sensed an odd shift in the air around Halloween. Each year, on the anniversary of the mansion's collapse, a strange fog would roll down from the hill, covering the town in a thick, unnatural mist. Lights would flicker, and the wind carried faint whispers, ghostly voices that seemed to be coming from nowhere. Though the mansion was gone, the spirits seemed to linger, woven into the very soil of Elm's Hollow. Amelia, Owen's mother, had also noticed the strange happenings. She felt a powerful connection to the hill, as if the spirit of Elizabeth Devlin, the last descendant of the Devlin family, still watched over her. Amelia would often visit the ruins, sensing Elizabeth's presence, and sometimes she'd find faint footprints in the dirt or hear a soft voice on the wind. She worried that even with the mansion destroyed, the darkness had not truly been banished. Owen tried to move on with his life. But one evening, as Halloween approached again, he began experiencing disturbing dreams. In his sleep, he saw visions of the mansion, its rooms intact, filled with shadows and echoes of the past. In his dreams, Lucy, Sam, and Marcus were there, trapped in the same ghostly forms, their faces solemn. One night, the dream took a darker turn. Owen found himself in the mansion's basement, standing before the collapsed foundation where Azrael had once been bound. But instead of a broken seal, he saw a fresh, glowing mark. the sign of Azrael, burned into the ground as if it had never been destroyed. In the dream, he heard the demon's voice, low and menacing. "You thought you could end me, but darkness like mine is never truly erased." Owen awoke in a cold sweat, realizing that he could still feel Azrael's presence lurking somewhere just beyond reach. The entity hadn't been fully vanquished. It was merely weakened, waiting for the right moment to reclaim its power. Determined to understand the truth, Owen returned to the hill, finding the remains of the mansion. The ruins were covered in thick vines, but as he sifted through the rubble, he found remnants of the old seal, the blood of Elizabeth Devlin. Though faded, it still pulsed faintly with energy, as if it was trying to contain something far darker than anyone had realized. As he stood among the ruins, a cold gust of wind swept through the air, carrying the faint whisper of his name. Owen turned and saw the figure of Elizabeth herself, translucent, her face weary but resolute. She seemed trapped between worlds, unable to rest fully, bound by the fragments of the seal that had once held Azrael. Elizabeth spoke softly, her voice strained. "Owen, the darkness cannot be destroyed, only contained. Azrael will seek another vessel, another way into this world. You must guard the seal, ensure that no one tries to resurrect what we fought to imprison." Owen understood the weight of her words. The curse of the Devlin mansion wasn't over. It had simply shifted, its remnants haunting the town, waiting for a moment of weakness to return. The hill, once the site of the mansion, had become a cursed place of its own, and Owen knew it would take constant vigilance to prevent the curse from resurfacing. Over the years, Owen became a quiet guardian of Elm's Hollow, making regular visits to the hill, ensuring that no one disturbed the ruins. Townsfolk noticed his watchful gaze, the way he seemed drawn to the hill each Halloween, though few understood the burden he carried. Despite Owen's efforts, the legend of the Devlin mansion persisted, becoming a rite of passage for the youth of Elm's Hollow. Children dared each other to visit the hill on Halloween night, tempted by the ghostly whispers and stories of spirits still lingering in the ruins. Some claimed they saw figures moving among the rubble, shadows with hollow eyes that watched them, warning them to stay away. And as for Owen, he never found true peace. Each Halloween, he would stand alone on the hill, feeling the weight of the curse press upon him, knowing that he was all that stood between Elm's Hollow and the return of Azrael's darkness. The fog would roll in, the lights in town would flicker, and Owen would sense that somewhere, in the shadows of the hill, Azrael was waiting, watching, biding his time. The curse of the Devlin mansion may have faded, but the darkness never truly left Elm's Hollow. It lingered in the memories of its people, in the soil, in the ruins of the mansion, a reminder that some evils can never be fully erased, only contained. And as long as the hill stood, so too would the whispers, a warning to all who dared to approach the haunted past of the Devlin legacy. Final conclusion. Years passed, and Owen continued his lonely vigil over the ruins of the Devlin mansion. Each Halloween, he returned to the hill, ensuring no one disturbed the seal or awakened Azrael. But as time went on, he began to feel the weight of his role growing heavier. The whispers became louder, the shadows darker, as if Azrael's presence was growing restless, searching for a way back into the world. One Halloween night, decades after the mansion's destruction, Owen sensed something was different. The fog that crept over the town was thicker, colder, and the whispers were louder than ever. It was as if the hill itself was alive, the darkness pulsing through the ruins, hungry for release. As he stood among the crumbling stones, he felt a presence beside him. Turning, he saw the familiar ghostly forms of Lucy, Sam, and Marcus. They hadn't aged, their faces unchanged, yet their expressions were grave. It was clear they had returned with a purpose. Lucy spoke first, her voice barely above a whisper. "Owen, we are running out of time. The seal is weakening. Azrael is close to breaking free." Sam nodded, his gaze steady but solemn. "You've protected the town for so long, but the curse demands more. There's only one way to ensure Azrael remains imprisoned." Owen's heart sank, realizing what they were implying. "You mean I have to become part of the curse?" Marcus stepped forward, his eyes filled with empathy. "Yes, just as we were bound to protect the mansion, you must now take our place. The seal needs a guardian, a soul willing to sacrifice everything to keep the darkness contained." Owen felt a cold chill spread through him, but he understood the gravity of his choice. The spirits of his friends had been bound to the mansion until the very end. Now it was his turn to carry the burden, to ensure that no one else would suffer. He took a deep breath and nodded, accepting his fate. "If this is what it takes to protect Elm's Hollow, then I'll do it." As he spoke, a wave of energy surged through the hill, as if acknowledging his sacrifice. The ruins of the mansion trembled, and a dark mist began to coil around Owen, binding him to the land. He could feel his spirit merging with the hill, the shadows claiming him, intertwining his soul with the remnants of the mansion. Lucy, Sam, and Marcus watched silently, their forms fading, finally free to move on. Lucy gave Owen a final, grateful smile. "Thank you, Owen. You've saved us all." And with that, they disappeared, their spirits at last released from their eternal vigil. As the first light of dawn broke over Elm's Hollow, the ruins of the Devlin mansion stood silent and still. The fog had lifted, and a strange calm settled over the hill. The townsfolk, sensing a shift, came to the hill and found nothing but quiet ruins, devoid of the familiar whispers and eerie presence. They knew that something had changed, that the curse had finally been contained. But for those who dared venture close, some claimed they could still feel Owen's presence, a guardian spirit watching over the hill, ensuring that Azrael's darkness would never escape. Every Halloween, the hill remained shrouded in a heavy silence, as though honoring the memory of those who had sacrificed themselves to keep the town safe. And though the townspeople knew the Devlin mansion was gone, they remembered the stories, the bravery, and the ultimate sacrifice of the souls who had protected them. They honored Owen and his friends, passing down the legend as a cautionary tale, a reminder that true courage sometimes meant giving everything to protect those you love. The curse of the Devlin mansion may have ended, but the legend endured, a haunting reminder that some sacrifices transcend life and death. And every Halloween, the people of Elm's Hollow would look to the hill, feeling a quiet gratitude for the guardian who kept their town safe, forever watching, forever protecting, bound by duty and the unbreakable ties of courage and sacrifice.